Apps Copilot has 4 new features I want to show you today. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to use them, how excited I am for one of them especially, and also talk about like they're being released, how to enable them in older apps if you don't have that showing up. So just kind of run you through these things pretty quickly, but get you familiar with them so you can take more advantage of it. Let's face it, if you're not using Copilot today, you're falling behind. So let's keep you guys on it. All right, let's switch over to my desktop and take a look. First out of the gate, let's talk about the little symbol here, right? So if you're seeing this, right, this is starting to roll out, then this is telling you that, hey, you've got Copilot functionality in your app and you should be seeing all the new stuff. So with this particular one, if you click on the drop down here, what this does is this explains a formula to you. So this was one of the first things I taught when I first started talking about ChatGPT and Power Apps was, like, hey, use it to explain what's going on, especially when you're working on other people's apps. And so they've built that directly into the product now. So here, if we say explain this formula, obviously it's just going to say sets the fill property of screen 1 to the control color white, right? So it's not just explaining this, it understands the context, the properties, it has a lot of what's going on there. Now, here what you want to see is probably something a little more complicated. So I wrote a quick button, and in this button, you can kind of see that, it's got an if statement in here, it's got a notify, it sets a variable, it's got a notify again, it could have patches, for alls, loops, it doesn't matter. But if we say explain this one to us, it is also going to have no problem with that, right? And so it's checking the current date is after December 25th. If it is, it displays success notification and sets the variable var Christmas to true. If the date is before, it displays notification of the number of days remaining until Christmas, right? So notice here, so that's what it says. But if you look, it read the context. It didn't just tell me what was on the screen, right? Like figuring out the number of days, it went in here and saw that I was doing a date diff. So it's not just reading to you what's on the screen. I know that's it's easy to say, oh, just, read the screen, who cares? But it is, it's using the large language model. It's using the smarts to read it, take the context. Keep in mind with this, explain this, you can get formulas that are too big. And so if you have a formula that's too large, it will tell you so. But I've only seen that on those ones that, you scroll for pages so far, but just keep that in mind, right? So that is explain this. That should be rolled out worldwide right now. And it should be showing up for worldwide as long as your browser settings are on English, right? That is, I think it's only in English right now. I'm sure they're working on more, but that's where we're at today. Okay. So that's it, right? So I call this the Explain It Copilot. Number next is my personal favorite, and we're going to spend a few minutes with this one, is what we call the PowerFx Copilot or the Comments Copilot. But so the idea of this one is that it can do work for you, right? That one just explains stuff. But let's just insert ourselves a rectangle real quick, right? Make our first demo super easy before we do complicated ones. And so if we go here and I'm like, hey, with that one, I want to set its color, right? So I'm going to go to fill and I want it to be green, like Christmas, right? So I can go here. If you do 2 double slashes, right? Which is the way we do comments. And then you can say, please set the color to green. And when you get done, see it, so it's generating and then it's going to offer you a formula. Now, here you can see I need to pull my bar down. Oops, that's all right, no big deal, right? We'll just go here, just hit the space again, that's the change, and then there it is. And so now it's like color.green. If we hit the tab key, we accept color.green and it is there, right? I know, Shane, that was super easy. I get it, but I want you to see it in super easy form because once you understand that now you can put that in lots of places, now we can do some pretty cool stuff. Right, like the first one I want to do here. So we're going to insert ourselves 2 date pickers on the screen, right? So insert date picker. I got 2 date pickers, right? Date picker 1 and date picker 2. And so now we're going to insert ourselves a label. And so what if we want to find the difference between number of days, right? Let's hit the Alt key so we can change this to 517. Oh my goodness, 517. Okay. Okay, so then we'll go down here to this label and we'll just say something like this. Calculate the number of days between the 2 date pickers. Now it's generating. And look at that. Date diff, date picker 1 selected date picker 2 selected date. And then the bar gets in the way sometimes. They're working on that, right? But no big deal. We'll hit tab so we can just see the full formula and it put in the time unit of days. And so it correctly counted 7. That's pretty awesome to me. Like I didn't think it could do that, right? Because I didn't tell it to use the control name date picker 1 and control use name date picker 2. Like, right, we just said use the 2 date pickers. And it looked at the whole app, found the context and said, oh, I see your 2 date picker controls. I'm going to take those 2 and I'm going to calculate the dates between them. That is very powerful to me, right? So that's one of my first ones. Let's try a slightly more interesting one. So let's insert ourselves a vertical gallery on the screen, right? And I added a data source earlier, like this isn't in any way tied to Dataverse. It's just that's the data source I had. Let's just get rid of the green triangle. It's in my way. Okay. So right now we just put in SharePoint employees. I clicked on that. Let's go up here. Let's get rid of this. And let's say something like, look at that craziness. I said filter SharePoint employees where department equals executive and then sort by last name. Sort, filter, SharePoint employees, department equals executive, last name. Notice that like with the last name column, I typed it with a space here. There was no space in the actual column name. It figured all that out, right? And so we hit tab, then boom, like that, we have the 4 executives and they are sorted by last name, right? Because we got Hammond, Ritter, Young, and Young. I should put that on the screen, but who cares? Well, we'll put it on the screen for us, right? So let's prove that. So let's go right here. So right now we're doing this item.first name. Let's say something like this. Combine the first name and last name columns. And here it goes generating. And then we'll hit tab so we can see it. But look at that. Concatenate this item.first name. Notice the mismatch in spaces. And then it added the space between them and this item last name. Right? Like that to me was very impressive because it didn't just shove them together like I said, right? I didn't tell it to concatenate. It knew to concatenate. But it even thought, hey, I bet he wants a space between these two. And bingo, bango, it put it in there. And now you can see all their last names, right? This feature is super cool, right? And we can use it other creative ways. So let's go here. Let's click on, how about our template fill? So right now our template fill is clear. Let's do some type of conditional logic. Set the color to red if they are over 40 and green if they're less than 40. And look, if this item age, so it not only understood, right? Did you see the word age up there? No, right? It figured out what I meant with that, right? It took the context of my employees and it said, hey, I think it means this age column. So it said this item age greater than 40 and then boom and boom. And so let's hit tab and see what we get. And look at that. I am the only one in that group that is over 40. I have Nicola in there and Jennifer in there at 29, right? Because no woman ever wants to hear they're older than 29, but and Sarah, so they're all 29. Anyway, you get the idea. So conditional logic, right? Like how many of you struggle to write that? I mean, if you watch the channel all the time, you probably don't, but how many new makers struggle to write a conditional like that? Now I just use my words and the app figured it out. This whole comment Copilot is very, very powerful. Now, let's talk for a minute though. Let's full disclosure here. So it doesn't do everything yet, right? So for example, let's insert ourselves another button like so. Oh, well, I didn't mean to put it in there, but it doesn't matter. So let's go to this button and let's say, create me a variable called vardog and set it button. I see it's generating and then nothing happens, right? So in this case, it doesn't know how to create variables yet. And so today, if it doesn't know how to do something, then it basically just returns blank. So when you're first getting started with this, like be cognizant of that, look at it. And if you see the generating and then nothing comes back, just know that what you're asking for, it didn't understand. Like it never comes back with any type of error message or any type of, oh, I don't know what it is. It just returns nothing if it doesn't know what it's doing for you. Now they're working on it. They're adding more features every day. But today what I have found is basically things that I want to do with buttons. So set, collect, navigate, that type of stuff, it doesn't do yet. But all the things that I've done like in labels so far, all those filterings and sortings and all of that has worked. So, you know, the feature is literally brand new. So, you know, I'm certain that they're going to improve it. They're actively working on it and we'll kind of see different changes over time. But as of today, it doesn't do that. Speaking of as of today, that feature is what we refer to as trickling out. There are a few of us out in the world that have it at this point. They've announced it's, you know, out, but they're kind of slowly letting that one come out as they kind of figure out what it can do and not do. So if you're not seeing that one yet, don't fret. Like it might be a hot minute. Now, speaking of not seeing it though, so clearly I have the feature, right? Now, what's important to understand though, is if I want to turn the feature on in an old app, right? So if I have this is a brand new app, so it's just all there. But if I go and use one of my apps that we built like 5 years ago and I come in here and try to do this, it's not going to show up. The reason for that is that in order for this new stuff up here to show up, under settings, upcoming features, you need to make sure that you have enabled the PowerFx formula bar. It's on automatically for all new apps. Maybe they'll turn it on for everyone at some point. But if you have the feature today in a new app and it's not showing up in your old apps, then typically what you're going to do here is just go toggle this on. Once you turn this on, you have to save your app, reload it, and then you should get the formula bar, okay? So the PowerFx formula bar, that is what you're looking for in this scenario. Hey, are you digging this Copilot stuff? Remember, over at training.poweraapps911.com, I've got a live Copilot class. I've got an on-demand Copilot class. Power Platform University includes a bunch of Copilot stuff. You should be learning this AI stuff. I've got classes to help you with it. If you want more than just these quick looks at things, you want in-depth, live, interactive training, I'm your guy. All right, back to the demo. Third Copilot. So we know, like, we click on a gallery today, we get the purple bar, right? And so we used to get something called ideas. Now what we're seeing is we've got Copilot here, okay? And so this Copilot, if you click on it, we say sort, filter, and search, right? Kind of like the ideas used to do. So over here, we automatically get suggestions that we can take advantage of. So if we want to use one of these built-in suggestions, like here, you can see like created on, is it going to, let's use your, that date picker that you added, right? You obviously added a date picker because you wanted to involve this with a gallery. So it's guessing things like that, okay? Now, if it is not hitting what you want here though, right? Like we do have the option to come up here. And so let's go up here and try, right? This is where it's new. And so we're going to try something like this. So I've never tried this one before. Let's try sort SharePoint employees by last name and then first name, right? So sort by 2 columns. So let's hit enter. Look at that. Sort by column, SharePoint employees last name, sort ascending, and then sort by first name and then ascending. And so then now we can click here. We can copy this. Oh, we'll set apply. And so look, now over here, if we go back, let's clean. No, we got to close this thing now. So now if we go in here, and we click on our items property, we will see that they put that formula in place for us. Last name ascending, first name ascending. So they took the idea and they've made it more advanced, right? Because now it's got Copilot, it's able to, you know, reason over your data a little bit more. So while none of us got super excited for the original ideas, I think this one is a lot more interesting because it does that, right? And we know that we could use this Copilot to get there, or we could have done the / comment to get there. So we kind of have 2 different ways to get to those type end results now, but wanted you to know that one's there. Also, you know, keep in mind, I know some of you don't love the purple bar. The purple bar is changing. Here, I'll pop up on the screen real quick, a screenshot for you guys of what it's going to look like very soon. I couldn't get that demo and this demo to kind of intertwine. So just show you the screenshot, but the purple bar and you have the ability to pin it and unpin it. And they're still working on it. Like they know that, you know, the purple bar is a little overwhelming at times. So they're going to have some different things there. Okay. So yeah, that's 3 Copilots. The last one is maybe the first one. No, it wasn't the first one we saw. I don't know, whatever. Right. So we know that if we go up here outside the Chrome and we click by my face, right, there's a Copilot here, which brings the Copilot up on the side. Okay. And so this one's been here for a while. So you're like, why are you showing me this? The reason I want you to show you that is if you look down here at the bottom, you see this Bing search is enabled. So we now have the ability to turn on Bing search. Now, earlier today, I was practicing with it and this is what I got. So what we'll do here is we'll just open up a new browser window so you can see what this experience would look like if you were in there and you hadn't enabled Bing search yet. One sec. Okay, so this is one of my other apps where it has shown up. And so, which is really weird. It kind of shows up, doesn't show up, whatever. But so down here at the bottom, you see Bing search is disabled. So this was my clue that something new was here. So what happens, I'm going to ask it a question, right? How do I use the PowerApps notification v2 feature? And if we hit enter, what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, I can't answer that for you, right? Some of the questions you asked may require Copilot to use Bing to search. So what they're really saying is I wasn't trained on that feature, right? We know that it was trained at a certain point, and so that one it doesn't know anything about yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yes, but just for this question. And so now when I press this, now it is using a Bing search to go look at the Microsoft properties to find out what is the notification about. And so look, it's like, hey, here are your instructions. We have one reference. And if you hover, you would be able to see that that is bottom left. If you look, learnmicrosoft.com, right? So it's not searching the whole internet, I don't think. Right, this is all subjective, my guesses. But I think it's just been scoped to go and be able to look at certain pieces of Microsoft's content to find it. But the nice thing is now it's answering more questions and it is giving the references. So if you think it's hallucinating, I can always go click on the link and read it. So Bing search just showed up. If you want, you can just hit the little mark down here and I could have just turned it on. I don't have to, ask a question to prompt and wait on it to happen, right? But yeah, I thought that was another cool one. And I'm assuming that, I'm hoping that this is kind of their first step into the larger foray. Like when I play the Copilot for Microsoft 365 stuff, most of the sidebars in that don't have context outside of the tool that they're in, right? So the Word only works in Word. But when they added the Outlook Copilot, it now has the context of my entire tenant, right? It's able to see further and more information. And so I'm guessing that's what these guys are kind of baby stepping their way through, right? Like now they're just getting more documentation with Bing search, but I'm going to bet that at some point I'm going to come into this Copilot and I can be like, hey, tell me about that penguin PowerPoint I wrote and help me make an app for it. And I bet at some point it's going to have that full tenant context as well. But those are just my guesses. But Microsoft's whole goal, right, is like all this to feel like one seamless experience. And to me, that's definitely that way. All right. Anyway, so there you go. So there are the 4 new Copilots. By my count, there are currently 9 different ways that I can use Copilots with Power Apps. It's kind of crazy. So make sure you're checking them out. You're playing with them. You're starting to use the AI Builder stuff. Well, hopefully you've been using the AI Builder stuff, but you're using the prompts, Power Automate's Copilots. There's so much cool stuff that, you're falling behind if you're just being like, Copilot, who cares? And I know that some of these features aren't all the way out, but the ones that are, use them, embrace them, so that when the next one comes out, you're not trying to learn it all at once. Okay? Questions, comments, leave them below. I'm always game to answer those. And I've got Copilot training, right? A whole Copilot training class out at training.powerapps911.com. We even did a live one earlier this week, so we're going to do another live one here in a couple months. So check those out as well, because learning AI is our job these days. All right, with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.